Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for coming today. This is really important, and quite honestly, I've taken some heat as to why the Democratic Club would host two Republican candidates. And so I want to tell you why. We cannot tell half the electorate to disengage for 2 years because one of these two gentlemen are going to represent us in Washington, D.C. So we get up from the table and we say we're not going to eat anything because we don't like what's on the menu, instead of asking, hey, can you prepare something a certain way? Obviously we know Washington is polarized. Can't get a lot done. However, in Antelope Valley here, we want to try to make something happen, do something different. Got a lot of young people on my board that's willing to do something different. Arthur Callaway, Roger Field, Brandon Zavala. We're willing to push the ticket. And so we want these two gentlemen, one of whom is going to represent us in Washington, D.C., to kind of do what we would like them to do. Represent us in Washington, the values and things that we need done here locally in Antelope Valley. We want them to go out and do our business. We're not going to tell would-be leaders if we told half the electorate to sit out. Now, if you choose not to vote for one of these candidates, fine, that's your choice. But you need to listen. You need to stay engaged. And so this is what we're doing today. We invited everybody out. This is where the Democrats are the high desert as their meetings. And I welcome everyone, Democrat, Republican, Independent, agnostic. And so I'd like to welcome everyone. Councilman Fred, thanks for coming out. Senator Knight, Tony Strickland, Larry Cipollone, thank you for being here. I know everyone take their time out of the day to be here. So, having said that, there's going to be a straw poll afterwards in which you're going to get a little marble and decide who, we're going to make a little fun here. We're going to decide who you thought won this debate. Without further ado, so we made this election for moderator. I could not think of a more professional, astute, experienced person in Antelope Valley to be our moderator. And I'm going to hand it over to Sandy Rousey.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming out on this hot Friday afternoon. We are going to start our forum with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Larry Cipollone, will you please lead us in the flag salute?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you may be seated. So I'm going to echo a bit of Jonathan's comments as the past president of this club. How ironic that it is most likely Democrats that will choose our next Republican Congress member. So we are here to have some tough questions, and let me get some housekeeping rules out of the way. Please, everyone, make sure that your cell phones are turned off and vibrate. And of course, I don't have to tell this very polite bunch to refrain from outbursts such as applause or booing or whatever it is we like to do, cheering. We had a coin toss prior to starting this forum, and opening remarks will be 2 minutes, and we are going to start with Senator Knight.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for coming on Friday. Thank you, Jonathan and Sandy, and of course Larry Cipollone for allowing us to come in front of you and speak about the issues that are going to affect all of us. One of us is going to be the representative for at least the next 2 years in the House of Representatives. We're both Republicans, and being here at the High Desert Democratic Club, it's a little bit off, but I appreciate Jonathan for doing this, because we shouldn't just be a representative for the Republicans or a Democrat representative. It shouldn't just be for the Democrats, it should be for everyone. So I'm going to tell you what I've done. When I ran for Palmdale City Council out here, I said one thing. I said I'm going to represent. And I'm going to do it by how I live. I'm going to do it how I was raised. And if you know how I was raised out here, probably you know my family, you know my father, and you know the history. When I ran for assembly, I said I was going to do the same thing. I was going to lead this community in the assembly, and I was going to do it quickly and easily, so that you would understand. I was going to be honest. I was going to have an open door, and I hate the open door policy. I have an open phone. I gave my cell phone to everyone. Every group I ever saw, it was 400-5207. I put it in the paper, I put it on the news. You should be able to call me. Ran for Senate, the same thing. And I told you a couple of different areas that I was going to be a leader in without a doubt. One was going to be veterans, because this is a huge veteran community. I come from a veteran family, I am a veteran. So it's very near and dear to my heart. And I also said, we need to keep taxes low, because I think taxes are very high in California, and if we keep raising them, it hurts the economy. Now, if you're in a state that's got very low taxes, there might be a different discussion, but here in California, there's not. There's no discussion. I have done that. I'm asking for your vote to send me to the United States House of Representatives. I will lead the same exact way, with honesty, with an open phone policy, with the ability to talk to me.
Thank you, Senator Knight. We will next hear from Senator Tony Strickland.
Well, I want to thank the Democratic Club for having this important debate. It is important that you're here, and I'm honored that you took time out of your busy schedule, because one of us will be the next congressman representing the 25th Congressional District. There's a difference in leadership in terms of getting things done between me and my opponent. In the primary, my opponent accused me in the Antelope Valley press of being quote-unquote a deal maker, and he used it in a negative connotation. You know what that means, being a deal maker? It means I sit across the aisle from Democrats and Republicans to try to work to accomplish to get things done. We already have too many people in Washington right now that are not talking to each other, and that it's their way to the highway, and so they don't come together to get things done. And then what happens is we all lose. I don't care if it's a Republican idea, I don't care if it's a Democratic idea, I care if it's a good idea. If it's a good idea, I will fight for that good idea for my district and for my country. I grew up in a time when people did work together and got things accomplished. I think when I was young, Ronald Reagan worked with Tip O'Neill. They didn't always agree, but they worked together to try to get things accomplished. Bill Clinton reached across and worked with Newt Gingrich and Bob Dole. They got a lot accomplished working together for the good and great of this country. In fact, it was the last time this country had a balanced budget. You won't always agree with me, and I acknowledge that. However, I will go out and seek you out. I'm not going to give you out my cell phone and expect you to call me. I'm going to call you. I'm going to sit down with you and ask what you think and work together to solve problems, real solutions for this country. I met with some of you already here in this audience, and I have to tell you, I was shocked when I sat down and talked with some of you, because my opponent has now represented Antelope Valley for 8, 10, 12 years. And almost to a T, every person I met of the Democratic persuasion since the primary and asked me what you think, all of you said, Steve Knight's never met with me. That'll be a difference in leadership. I will not only meet with you, we'll work together to solve problems for our community. Thank you.
We're going to start with a very broad one, and we're going to give a candidate two minutes to respond. We're going to start with Senator Strickland. What are your top 3 priorities if elected?
Well, number one is a stronger economy. I think we need to make sure that we have lower taxes on hardworking California families. We need to make sure the government's efficient, that the money we do spend is spent efficiently. That's number one. Number 2 is jobs. We need to fight for good, high-paid, mortgage-paying jobs. And number 3 is energy. We're now dependent on foreign oil here. I think we can be energy independent. And it's not only an economic issue, it's a national security issue. If we bring energy and renewable energy here, that means we're not sending billions of dollars to countries that don't like us that fund terrorist networks. And we need to make sure we transition California into a more efficient, renewable economy. I've been in the front lines on that in Sacramento, and I know, talking to some leaders here in Antelope Valley, want to be a cluster for renewable energy, like Silicon Valley is for high tech. I want to be part of that solution to bring about high-paying, working jobs here at the Antelope Valley, and I look forward to working with you on all three of those items.
Senator Knight.
Well, here in Antelope Valley, we've always wanted better jobs. We have. We wanted our home prices to rise. All of those things we've been working on for 100 years out here. When we get a big ramp up, like a new production over here at Lockheed or Northrop, and things happen. So it's always going to be the economy, it's always going to be opportunities, it's always going to be what we can bring to here. Secondly, I would always want to have a strong defense for this country. Always. A strong defense doesn't just mean we have the biggest stick. A strong defense means that our allies look to us and say, "Golly, we got somebody over there that we can rely on." And if we're in trouble, they're going to be with us. And our enemies look at us and they say, "We don't want to do anything to America because they're so strong." Those are the two biggest. Well, right here, I would put the third as our school. Our schooling has got to be better in America. We're ranked about 37. It's got to be better, not just here in California, but it's got to be better across the country. Now, I have created a program that we put in 5 schools. We're at 2 right here in the Antelope Valley. And it talks about computer science and how we get kids involved in computer science, which either evolves into a computer science degree or an engineering degree. When we get those kids involved in that, then we can produce a new program. A lot of these kids don't want to go to school for 4 years. They want to go out there and change the world. Talk to a 19-year-old right now. They want to change the world. If we can build a program that puts an 18-month curriculum in there and states it and says at the end, you're going to be a coder. Microsoft, Google, all of those companies have come forward and said, if you can do that, we will not ask the government for S1 visas because we'll have enough kids here. That's transformation to education. We're always going to have brick and mortar, we're always going to have 4-year colleges. But if we can think a little bit outside the box and give kids a different opportunity, it's going to be better for all of us.
Okay, so we're going to enter a round of questions where they'll have 1 minute to respond. And I do want to take this time to thank Jonathan Irwin for asking our Democratic Club of High Desert membership to submit their questions. So that's what you're going to see here in the next round. Okay, gentlemen, we'll start with Senator Knight. We are still recovering from the worst recession since the Great Depression. What have you done to create jobs? What specific programs will you advocate for in Congress?
1 minute, very quickly. So we just passed an aerospace bill about a month ago. That gives us an opportunity to get an next strategic aircraft right here in Palmdale, right here in California, to give 250 subcontractors a job here in California. When we go back to the session next week, we're going to do part 2 of that aerospace bill. If those bills are in place, California will have the leading edge in getting the next strategic aircraft right here. That is what I've done just over the last year. If you send me to the U.S. House of Representatives, that is how I'm going to feel. We're going to have to look at the problem. Look, the area right here is aerospace, it's filmmaking. It's trying to attract manufacturing jobs out here. Well, let's do something that can actually get that. The aerospace bills that we have passed will do that right here as well.
I agree, California is the film making capital of the world, but we had a lot of runaway production in Canada and Mexico and across the country. So I authored a bill that we made sure we have a movie tax credit so we can keep those jobs here in California and help grow our economy. But when I passed that bill, I passed it for everyone. Meaning I didn't say I'm only going to do it for Disney and Warner Brothers, but Paramount were left out. Well, that's what my opponent did when he passed that defense bill. He left out Northrop. And only after he got deep, after passing for Boeing and Lockheed, he left out Northrop. If you're going to do one economic for one, you have to do it for all. And that's the key, is we need to fight for all high-paying jobs. Northrop is a major employer in this district. They've now sold to Germany. They're on the path to NATO. They're on the path to Japan. They should not have been left out of that tax credit. If it's good for Antelope Valley, you shouldn't take winners and losers. Government shouldn't take winners and losers and show bad judgment by picking 2 and leaving 1 out.
Okay, as moderator, I'm going to use my prerogative to allow a 15-minute rebuttal because Senator, 15-second rebuttal. name of it. And I will offer the same to you.
Absolutely. When you don't know about something, you might read something in the paper, take a snippet, and say, oh, I can tackle on that. Understand, for 7 months we've been dealing with Northrop, Boeing, and Lockheed, all of them. When these two bills come together, everyone's under the same umbrella. Right now, just yesterday, I spoke to the Vice President of Northrop, and couldn't be happier with what we are doing with these bills.
So let us move on to our next question. We're starting with Senator Strickland. Immigration reform has always been a priority for us Democrats, but in the last few weeks, it has become a major issue of urgency for the entire country, with over 57,000 children coming through our southern borders from Central America. Are these opportunists wanting amnesty and U.S. citizenship, or are they refugees seeking safety and asylum in the United States?
First and foremost, I'll never fault anyone for wanting to be part of this American dream that we have here. We're a nation of immigrants. My mom's immigrant from Germany. And what this shows is that our immigration system needs to be fixed. I feel for those children who have coyotes bringing them across many miles. They're fighting. They're here. And it just shows you that we need to fix our immigration system. I often bring up Patsy Ayala, who lives in Santa Cruz Valley. It took her 13 years to go through the process to get her citizenship, a lot of money. And while she was going through that process, her mom passed away in Mexico. And she couldn't go to her mom's funeral because then she would have to start all over. That's wrong. We need to cut down bureaucracy. People want part of that American dream. We need to fix the immigration system so they can have a part of that American dream.
Absolutely. For the next minute, I can say a lot of valuable vote and say we need to fix it. Or I can tell you what really needs to be done. What really needs to be done is legal immigration needs to be fixed in this country. It hasn't been over the last 50 years, so legal immigration has been so difficult that the only people who love it here are immigration attorneys. They're the only ones who can figure it out. They're the only ones who can make sure that you're going to pay your $7,500 to get into this country legally. If we really want to work it from the legal standpoint, give many more opportunities for people to come to this country and make a clear set policy on how you do it. If we do that, it will, in essence, make its own quota system. It will, in essence, make its own system for how many people come into this country. And we won't be going out there and saying, you know, you're a doctor, you can come to this country. But you're not. And you're not skilled, you don't have any education, so we don't want you in this country. That's what's happening today. That's what's happening with bad policy. That's what's happening when people don't say anything about immigration except we need to fix it. Let's actually fix it.
Thank you. Voters would like to know what style of leadership they can expect from you as our next congressman. So the next two questions will give us a glimpse on how you will govern. And we'll start with Senator Knight. Name a time you broke ranks with your Republican Party on an issue of importance to your constituents.
Well, there's several examples of when I broken ranks. In the 6 years I've been in the Assembly and the Senate, I've been in leadership for about 4.5 of those years. And so either the leader of the Assembly or the leader in the Senate has always come and said, we're going to do this. This is a drill. This is some sort of a thing that we're going to do that's going to help us down the road. On several occasions, I broke ranks with that. Well, many people have. And said, no, that's not what we're going to do, because that doesn't advance what we need to do for this state. Now, specifically, I can't give you an idea of what kind of leader I am, because you've seen it over the last 6 years. You've seen what I've done. You've seen what kind of person I am. That's the kind of person I will continue to be. The type of leadership you should get is the type of person that you elect into office. They should have the right morals. They should have the right ethics. Just being a politician shouldn't drag you down into the mire. You should elect a good person.
Thank you. Senator Strickland.
Specifically, I was one of 3 Republicans that voted for the renewable energy standard that we have here in California, that 33% of our energy is in renewable energy. Number 2, in AB 43 in 2001, I voted for a study that said we need to look into income inequality for women. because I think that we should have equal pay for equal work. 2012, I reinstated the Healthy Families Program. This is a program that worked with kids. It actually provided 800,000 kids health care they couldn't otherwise afford it. It was eliminated. I offered a bill to reinstate Healthy Families. I'm a big supporter of the Prop 5 initiative. It's kids California for spot. These are giving kids a chance to start early in the educational process to make sure that they have a successful education, to get them a good start. Those are just specifically 4 items, but we can go into more. The key is, again, I don't care if it's a Democratic idea or Republican idea, I don't care if it's a good idea. I have specific examples where I both ranks for my party.
Thank you. The next question is along the same lines. Name an issue in which you led the Republican Party on a bipartisan effort and worked with Democrats to accomplish it.
Good question. There was a bill that I authored every year to eliminate the sales tax on manufacturing equipment, because I believe manufacturing is what drives the economy. And every year it got killed in committee because the majority party of the Democratic Party didn't want to lose that sales tax revenue. We were only one of 3 states in the union that charged sales tax on this manufacturing equipment. So Alex Padilla came to me, we worked together, he said, hey, we can't do it for everybody, but let's do it for green technology. Because I think I can get enough Democrats on that side, and if you can get enough Republicans, let's get it done. So I went, I got upset a lot of people on the Republican side, Alex upset some on the Democratic side, but we worked together, and we got that bill passed. We got it signed by Governor Schwarzenegger, and now we're getting more manufacturing jobs in green technology. That's what we need to do. We need to work together to solve those problems. Because what's happening in Washington, they would look at that problem and say, if you don't go with my original bill, I'm not going anywhere. I was willing to take a half loaf because it's the right thing to do to move the state forward in manufacturing jobs.
Well, first, I'll give you 3 examples. The Veterans Bond Act I passed in my 2nd year in the Assembly. It saved $240 million to invest over the next 20 years on child debt loans. That was a bipartisan movement. That was a issue where I got an awful lot of Democrats to come over and co-author the bill because they knew this will help our veteran community. Right here at Palmdale School District, I ran a vote for 6 years to make it safer for our kids in public education when it comes to volunteering in school. That has been a bipartisan movement. We've just been stalled by certain groups in Sacramento. That has been a movement that Republicans and Democrats have jumped on board. The aerospace bill could have been a bigger push for Republicans and Democrats, from the Speaker's office to the pro tem to the governor. All of them were instrumental in pushing this bill. But the last thing I'd like to say is, if answering this question, we should look into our candidate statement that we did back in June. And on the 2nd line of the candidate statement from my opponent, it says, I want to go to Congress to oppose Obama. Now, if you want to work with someone, and in your candidate statement you say, my goal is to go to Congress to oppose Obama, not President Obama, but Obama. That makes me think, as a voter, and I'm the only voter up here of 2 of us in this district, that I can't vote for you if that's going to be your goal. Your goal is to go there to oppose my president, your president. So I find it hard to believe that you're going to work across the aisles.
Senator Knight, I'm going to use my moderating prerogative and offer 50 seconds to Senator Strickland.
What you saw is I said I opposed Obamacare. I know it's later on down the line I can talk about healthcare policy. But yeah, I believe Obamacare was written poorly. I do believe we need to fundamentally fix healthcare. I know it's a question later on down the line. But you know, best indicator of future performance is past performance. And I encourage you, you're close to Democratic colleagues up in Sacramento. Talk to them. Ask them how Steve Knight worked with them and ask them how I worked with them. I'm encouraging you to call Democrats and say, who did they work with better? I'm encouraging you to do that.
Okay, we're not going to have a rebuttal to the rebuttal, but let us continue. Our next question, we're going to start off with Senator Knight. Congressman Buck McKeon has represented the 25th Congressional District since 1992. Assess his legacy and describe your relationship with him.
Well, I've known the Congressman from about 1990, 1991. I've had a good relationship with the Congressman. I haven't had a close working relationship with the Congressman. I would say that he's done an okay job for the district. It's hard to say when we don't see him very often. He doesn't come to this area very often, and when he does, it's a fanfare. I know Antelope Valley Press is notified. I know the Channel 3 is notified. But I would say he's done an okay job. He has been a chair of two of the largest committees in Washington, D.C., and part of that is because of what you do, and a lot of that is because you've got enough tenure to become a chairman. But 22 years is enough.
Senator Strickland?
I'm proud to say I have the support of Chairman Buck McKeon. I think he's done a remarkable job for the district. Most members of Congress have never been chair of one committee. He's been chair of two major standing committees, Education, Workforce, also Armed Services. And Armed Services is very important to the Antelope Valley and throughout the 25th Congressional District. And again, a difference in leadership. I'm honored to also say I have the support of the incoming chair of the Armed Services Committee, Matt Cornberry out of Texas. What that means is he's indicated that he would like me to be on the Armed Services Committee. And I think that would be very important for the 25th Congressional District and for the Antelope Valley, and to be able to work to get things done. But I'm proud to say I have the support of Chairman Buck McKeon. I think he's done a remarkable job for this community. That's all I'll say about it. Thanks.
Okay, we are in the Machinist Union Hall, and I'd like to thank Penny Eaton, who's standing in the back there, for your hospitality this afternoon. We are here in the aerospace capital of the world. Gentlemen, describe your relationship with labor unions. What can working families expect from you as a representative in Washington, D.C., and we're starting with Senator Strickland.
I've had a good relationship with the labor unions. I've had a good relationship with particularly the construction trades. My dad was a maintenance man. He worked with his hands after he served in Korean Vietnam. In any industry that's fighting for mortgage-paying jobs, I'm going to work collectively too. Does it mean I agree on all issues? Absolutely. Absolutely not. But I have sat down with labor leaders, both in Sacramento when I was there, and also here locally. I've already met with the air traffic controllers. I've met with the machinists. I've met with electrical workers. And again, as I sat down with them, as I talked, what are the important issues? What do you think I need to know about? They talked about apprenticeship programs and things like that. And as we went through back and forth, I asked one last question. I said, has Steve Knight ever called you in the 10 years, sat down with you like I'm doing right now? And the answer was no. And I think that's the function of leadership. I'm going to represent everybody in the 25th Congressional District if I'm lucky enough to be here.
All right, Senator Knight.
Well, I'm going to tell you things that I believe in my heart. I'm not going to tell you what I think I should say to this group, and I should say something else to the next group. When I worked with unions up in Sacramento, we've had a tenuous relationship. I want to work to get more jobs. I want to work to get more opportunities. Sometimes we don't see eye to eye on how that's going to happen. Sometimes we don't see eye to eye on what the standards are going to be. Never had a policy where I said, you know, we're not going to talk to that group because they're not going to support my party. We have had a working relationship, but if a Republican comes into a Democrat hall and then says to you what he thinks you want to hear, and then goes somewhere else and says something different, you might want to look at that candidate and say, well, what's he going to say on the next time? What's he going to say on the next time? I'm telling you right now, when it comes to unions, I've had an open door relationship. We've had a good relationship, but it's been a little bit difficult on how we see eye to eye on how the opportunities are going to be created.
Thank you, Senator. I'm going to offer 15 seconds of rebuttal for the Senator's hearing.
I don't say anything different to anybody. Don't look at the rhetoric, look at the record. I think it's very important. Look, I fully admit I'm not going to agree with everybody 100% of the time. In fact, sometimes I say, what was I thinking when I voted for that bill? You can't expect anybody to agree with you 100% of the time. But I've had a reputation of working well with everybody. And that's my reputation. Don't look at the rhetoric, look at the record.
Thank you. We're going to start with Senator Strickland. Steve Knight. Let us turn to women's reproductive rights. Are you pro-life or pro-choice? And is Roe versus Wade settled law?
Well, I do believe Roe versus Wade is settled law. We are in the 41st year of Roe v. Wade. I didn't agree with Roe v. Wade. I didn't think it should be a federal issue. I thought it should have been a constitutional 10th Amendment issue. It should have been left up to the states. That being said, it is settled law today. Roe v. Wade is settled law. I am pro-life. I am, without exception, pro-life. I make no exception to my stance, just like I don't to you. My wife is a NICU nurse right over here at Antelope Valley Hospital, and I go over there and visit and tour the NICU all the time. And it's interesting to see the advancements we're having in children these days, where today a 24-week baby is a viable baby. Where about 10 years ago, that moved up to about 27 weeks. But I make no exception. I'm pro-life.
Thank you, Senator Strickland.
I am pro-life with 3 exceptions. 3 exceptions being rape, incest, and threats to another's life. I think we need to make abortion rare. I do believe Roe v. Wade is settled law. I, like Steve, believe it should have been done in the states. But I do have 3 exceptions of rape, incest, and threats to another's life.
Okay, we're going to start with Senator Strickland. How do you prioritize foreign versus domestic issues? In our post-recession world, the wars in the Middle East have cost in excess of trillions of dollars. Yet our schools, roads, rail, and even our own veterans are funding starved. Today there is a new saber rattling in Gaza, Ukraine, Syria, Iraq, and elsewhere. Where does our role as policemen to the world begin and end?
I believe everything starts with a robust economy. Everything's connected to jobs in a robust economy. Healthcare, education, and national defense. I do believe America needs to lead around the world, because when we don't lead, a lot of people suffer. There's no greater friend that we have across the globe than Israel, and I think America needs to stand with Israel, especially in this conflict with Gaza. But not only Gaza, but what's happening now is everybody's focused on Gaza. Iran is about to have the ability for a nuclear capability, and that would not only be bad for Israel, that would be bad for the world. And we need to do what we can to make sure that that does not happen. In order to do that, America must lead.
Yeah, I don't like policemen of the world. I think that if you're a superpower, if you're a leader, then you have to lead. When we have friends out there and they are in distress, then we have to be with them. If we're not going to be, then we're not going to be friends with them. And if we have enemies out there that think we're weak, then they will do something to us. Right now what's happening in Israel is we give about $351 million to the Iron Dome every year. We have just requested an emergency $225 million. I fully support that. Every time we fire one of those rockets into the air, it's about $50,000. They're firing multiple rockets every day. If Israel is compromised, that will break down that region of the world. And I don't think anyone in here would argue that that region is the most difficult region that we've had over the last 100 years and probably over the next 100 years. We need to stand with them. We need to make sure that they know that we're with them. As far as domestic policy, I'll get into it.
Thank you. This last question of this particular round, we'll start with Steve. Do you support or oppose the Affordable Health Care Act, commonly referred to as Obamacare?
So I think there is a difference here, and you saw it in the debates in the primary. My opponent said his number one goal was to repeal Obamacare. Number one. In fact, in the first month of the season, he put out a commercial on radio that said, "I will go there and repeal Obamacare." He also had the Chair of Armed Services on that commercial. Well, if he wanted to repeal it, he knew how to do it. He should have told the Chair of Armed Services, because he's against it too. I would have not voted for Obamacare. I wouldn't have. I don't think it was the right path. But what we should do is not say that our goal is to go there and repeal it. Our goal should be to go there and lead and make it better for everyone. There are issues in Obamacare that can affect every one of us. We talk about the insurance across state lines. We talk about seeing our own doctor. We talk about, well, I talk about engaging the private community. Before Obamacare came in, Target, Walmart, Walgreens came through and said, we want to build a clinic system. If they would build that clinic system, the clinic would have been within 97% of the population, 20 miles. And we disengaged them. I think we should re-engage and have them part of this system.
Thank you. Spencer?
I am opposed to Obamacare. I do believe Obamacare is fundamentally flawed. I do believe the premiums going up. I believe health care should be for all. The promises about the insurance not going up and being able to cover, and that your premiums not going to go up, just even from which way I completely support part of the legislation. However, I do have a backpack. I don't know. Why something? Because I think you fix things like that. Can, as I said, offer a program that work for kids, cover kids that have that health care insurance. The other thing is, I do believe there's some good goals that we have to do. For example, children to be 26 with their parents, that's a good goal. Cover people under pre-existing conditions, you need to do that. But also, I think your health care should be affordable. A large reason why we have a high uninsured healthcare population is a lot of people's health care is connected to their employment. And when you have high unemployment, not only do they lose their individual families lose their job, they also lose their health care. I know what it's like. My dad lost his job when I was a child. And that's something that's very, very stressful on an entire family. I'll never forget about that. And then on top of losing that job, you're losing your health care for your family. I believe health care should be affordable. So we do need to fix health care. I do oppose Obamacare because I do believe it's poorly written.
All right, I want to thank you for submitting your audience questions. I noticed that prepared questions that we had, and now we're getting into our rapid fire round. Some of them are in business, so we've been brilliant minds in life. So what we're going to do now, rapid fire, is I'm going to ask this question, both candidates are going to answer, and then we're going to have like a one-sentence answer, 20 seconds, okay? Okay, first we're going to start with Senator Strickland. What can we expect from the Veterans Health Administration investigation after a recent scandal revealed 40 veterans died waiting for treatment at VA facilities?
Well, I had a town hall here last night, bringing in experts on what we can do to make sure that it doesn't happen. First and foremost, what a lot of the experts were talking about was, we need to hold people accountable. A lot of people's health care is pushed aside. And number two, we need to make sure, because right now there's a high demand and very low supply of health care providers. One of the ideas that came out last night that came from experts and constituents is the ability to have credit, an insurance card that says the veteran, instead of having to go to Los Angeles or Sepulveda, a veteran can now go to your local provider, you can go to your local hospital, something Kaiser is actually offered to try to be part of that. Those are the kinds of things, because right now the VA system in terms of healthcare is just choked up. There's not enough doctors working to provide what we're in.
Okay,
And our veterans deserve to be taken care of.
Well, I'm glad something came out of that fundraiser you heard last night.
What's that fundraiser?
I've said that for 8 months. I've talked about that for 8 months. Why should a vet have to wait until brick and mortar is built in their neighborhood so they can go get services? Why would we do that? That means that we're going to have to build brick and mortar here. We're going to have to build one 20 miles away because we can't be outside the 45-mile area. We're going to have to keep going. Why wouldn't we allow vets to go in and see their local provider and say, take care of them? If it's long term, we have VA hospitals. We get that. But if it's short term, we should be able to go in and see your local. And if we do that, that's consistent with VA.
Okay, Senator Strickland, I'm going to give you 15 seconds to remember.
No fundraiser. There's no fundraiser. No one asked for money. In fact, we didn't really talk about the campaign. We provided a service with experts. Every veteran that was there came up and said, we need to do this again. And I also believe legislators need to go to experts and listen to constituents and not say, I have the answers for everything. I think the good legislators are the ones that can listen work with experts, and work with the community to come up with real problems, with real solutions to real problems.
Our next question is for Representative tonight. Let's discuss the June primary. Who did you support in the 36th Assembly District?
So I supported Tom Lackey. I fully support Tom. Tom was a Palmville School District trustee. He's been a Palmville City Councilman for now his third term. And Tom has shown true leadership here. Tom is one of those people that you know. You know what he says and what he's going to do. I think that Tom going to Sacramento would be a huge benefit to this area. So I fully support Tom in the primary and of course in the general.
I supported Suzette Martinez. I thought she was a young, energetic woman that could do a great job up in Sacramento. That said, I also believe J.D. Kennedy would have been fantastic as someone and a strong leader for this community. That's who I supported for my primary.
Okay, and we'll continue with that June primary. Senator Strickland, who did you support for governor and why?
No, I didn't endorse anybody for governor. I just wasn't enthusiastic with choices for governor. I was focused in on campaigning, and I really just didn't endorse anything.
So I'm always going to stay engaged when voting. I was going to look at the information. I was going to have a vote. If there were two Democrats in this race, instead of Republicans, I would vote. So I will always stay engaged. I did endorse Tim Donnelly. They were the person that was a little bit out there on certain issues, strong economic issues in the state. Right.
Our next question, we'll start with Senator Knight. Your critics, your critics on social media have called one of you a carpetbagger and the other one has riding his daddy's coattails. What can you say that is complimentary about your opponent?
I appreciate Tony for stepping up and being able to run for office. It's not easy to go and put yourself out front, put your family, told that you are going to get on Facebook, Twitter, and everywhere that you can possibly imagine. So I appreciate that from Tony. I appreciate that from anyone who's going to run for office. It's a very good process.
I concur. Every year run for office, and in a competition, look, I played sports, and we're in a competition, and Steve Knight is a scratch golfer, he's phenomenal, and since he's an athlete as well as I am, so we're competitors. We both think that we have something to offer this system. But we're going to fight for this seat, and I'm hopeful that day after election day, we reach across and shake hands, say let's work together, because that's what our conference is about. So I have admiration for Steve. He has a wonderful family. I actually served as a his father. I think is a very special family.
The federal workforce and its entirety is an integral part of running a country, such as DOD, FAA, post office, and security workers. If elected, what would you do to support this group and ensure that they are not perennially on the chopping block?
I believe federal workers serve a vital purpose for running our government, and they provide benefits to our citizens. Much like when we're elected, we have a staff that we work together with, and a lot of constituents, when they call and have an issue or a problem, we call casework. We don't ask them if they're going to we try to do what we can and help our constituents and solve problems. That's what the federal workforce is. They're trying to do the best job that they can to be able to serve their constituents and serve their country. So we need to treat them with dignity and respect.
Many groups that we enumerated here, many government groups do a phenomenal job. I'm a big supporter of what happens at the post office, what happens in the FAA. They keep us safe on line. It's not an easy job. In fact, right now, you're going to find the FAA here that takes care of a huge region from Vegas, all the way down to San Diego, right here in London. So I would support them. I think an awful lot of them are veterans, an awful lot of them have a commitment to that group and to the country. I think that if we're looking at the budget as a whole, we've got to look at what job is being done.
Gentlemen, what Republican exemplifies your style of government and leadership? Are you a Ted Cruz Tea Partier or John McCain the Maverick? We'll start with Senator.
I wouldn't be either one of those people. The person I really admire, besides Ronald Reagan, everybody always says Ronald Reagan on the Republican side, Jack Kemp. I don't know if anybody knows who Jack Kemp is. When I was in college, I drove in presidential motorcade. I know this is sexy, I'm trying to be quick. About 800 people. Thinking we're down, that's a very good time. Most politicians ran me to photo op. Jack Kemp ran over to the crowd, started talking about my zone, doing what we can, help grow inner city. That day forward, I want myself up that Jack Kemp.
Yeah, I agree with Tony. I'm not going to pick either one of those. But I'm going to pick someone who's a little bit close to home here, and that's our Congressman East, and that's Paul Cook. From Cook and I served in the Assembly. He got elected to the House of Representatives, and I've always had a affection to Cook, not just because he's 26 years of reign, he's combat reign and Vietnam, but people respect him because he did what he said. And people looked up to him. And I always thought, that's not just because that's not just because you're older than some of us. That's because of your commitment and what you said and what you did.
Speaking of representatives, LA County Supervisor Mike Antonovich will be retiring soon. Can you definitively say that you will not run for the supervisor's open seat in 2 years? And will you sign a pledge to that effect? We'll start with Senator Knight.
I have no, I will not be a supervisor. I have known Supervisor Antonovich for about 34 years. In fact, he's years in my career. He's mom, my wife, and children. I love him. He's a great family. And whoever gets to follow him, gets to follow him. And that's a very tough thing. But I have no desire to be LA as a supervisor. I have every desire to be 100% for this area.
Answer the questions, yes. I'm not going to remember my comments.
Last question in this rapid fire round, and Representative Strickland. Does raising the minimum wage hurt or help the economy?
Well, in terms of going back to Congress, the California minimum wage is at $9, $10. So most of that Washington is less than what we have currently in California. So I just think that's a good point in terms of that.
Well, I think you can hurt the economy. I think here in California, we're raising it to $9, and another year we're going to raise it to 10. There's an issue with special when we do a 10-10. There's also an issue to do a 15-50. You can't go outside of the parameters where you're going to lose minimum wage jobs. Remember, this is the first time in history that technology can take away minimum wage jobs. We saw in the 50s and 60s robotics taking away middle-class jobs in the automotive industry. You've seen it in the aerospace industry, where you have 36 access to drill, take away machinists. Right now, going to a Vons or Albertsons, you see a self-checkout. Those are bagger jobs. Technology can take them away. So if we move too fast on minimum wage, businesses kill some jobs.
That ends our rapid fire round. We are moving on to your audience questions. I'm going to start with the tough one. And they're for each of you. The first one is for Senator Strickland. Why aren't you running in the district where you live?
Well, I represented a huge portion of the restaurant scene. And I grew up in this district. I grew up in the other end of the district in East Valley. I represented a large portion of San Diego, that portion of San Valley on this day, like views and down to East Valley. I live 2 miles from the district, which we're really asking is who's going to represent the community. And I'm encouraged, and I will tell you, those 2 miles, I will fight for you. If I'm lucky enough in Lori, Dale Valley, I'm here all the time meeting folks, and no one will fight my entire portion of the Twin Cities district more than me if I'm lucky enough to be here.
Okay, we're going to try to keep this 20 seconds because we have a lot of questions. Item 9, I would like you to abandon the position as Sacramento legislature position in Congress when you've only been in office for 2 years.
Yeah, that's a good question. There is a void, 22 years with the same neighborhood in the House of Representatives. And I spoke with several folks in the area. And I said that we have to have a strong leader to go to Washington, D.C. to speak on what is all right, what's right for us. And I think that, yes, I am leaving the Senate if elected, with 2 years left on my Senate. We're also getting a leader here that will go to D.C. to fight for the right here. And that happened very early on. So I made that decision.
What is your position on medical marijuana use, especially treatment by women with breast cancer?
So as a police officer, I was working on the law, no doubt about that. I think that medical marijuana has aspects that we should look at in this country. I absolutely do. But when states do it on their own, and there's still a national law, we put ourselves in a difficult situation. I think the movement is going to be that we're going to have marijuana use and or medical marijuana use. It should be at the federal level. Look, if you use marijuana for alcohol or something that is affecting you in such a way, it's probably not necessarily drug as many of the other drugs that you prescribe.
I also agree it should be a federal issue because when federal and state laws conflict, a lot of people they're breaking the law either way and they'll fall on their own. For medical marijuana, I see medical marijuana, and if that's what the doctor thinks that's the way we prescribe for illness. And I agree with Steve, there's a lot of other drugs out there that are normally
Senator Strickland, we'll start with you again. How do you feel or describe your position on birthright citizenship?
Well, if you're born in the United States, you're a United citizen in terms of.
Well, I do too. It's constitutionally set. That's how you are birthright citizens. I think there will be discussion over the next 25 years. There's already been discussion if you are your mother or not. That's okay, the Constitution change. And I don't see that happening in this country right now. I think that the law and the Constitution is the right way.
In the last 4 years, Governor Perry from Texas has approached companies in California with incentives to move to Texas. What are you doing or what will you do to keep companies in California and maintain our economy?
The greatest thing we can do here in California is not change the rules every year. That's what gives Governor Perry a leg to come over here and say, hey, what happened last year? Did they change those rules? That's the worst thing. It's not taxes, it's not regulations. We don't like them, they're both high. But almost to a T, every company I've ever talked to says, I'll pay the taxes. Every year. That's what Texas has done. They've allowed you to go over there with a 10-year business plan and perform in Texas. We need to be better in California.
California needs to fight for every job, especially mortgage jobs. As I mentioned before, I was offered a bill, moving right away reduction. Canada's offering incentives, Mexico and other states. Look, we don't have to equal other states. We just got to have ballpark. We're in the ballpark, we're more desirable places that we need to fight for those jobs. And hopefully when we improve and have those kinds of economic abilities, that we can go to other states and bring those jobs to California. Not only are we going to be in the ballpark on those economic issues, but we have the best weather and one of the best environments in the world.
Thank you. Next question for both of you. And I'm going to rephrase it a little bit because I don't think it's written by I don't have much on here. Here we go. Gentlemen, do you think that if we reverse the damage that some perceive the Obama administration has done to our country? That is a nice thing to politely as I can. Let me start with Senator.
I actually think everybody in Washington does that. I don't know Obama is my first person. I am President Obama, I'm sorry. But it takes two to tango. And as I mentioned, we need to look back to previous leaders like Ronald Reagan, working with Bill Clinton, working with Newt Gingrich on Dole. And I hope to change that kind of culture back in Washington. That again, doesn't matter what I did, Republican, Democrat, I mean, they only have a good idea and people need to work together.
Well, obviously, I'm a Republican, the president is a Democrat, so there is a difference between we have a two-party system. The president's going to do some things that I don't agree with, and I'm going to do some things the president does not agree with. But to say that there's been so much damage, that how do we take things back, how do we get our country in the right direction? Look, I'm going to go back there and say, I believe this would help our country. I would like to work with the administration. I made it very clear. This is my president. President Obama is not someone I voted for. He is my president. My goal is not to go back there and comment or yell and scream about everything he does. My goal is to go back there and work with the administration and get something better for this country.
The next question has to do with water. Normally that would be a state issue. Describe what advocacy or what you would do to help the water drought issue in California. We'll start with you.
Very tough on 22nd, but right now we're talking about water. There's 4 different items up in Sacramento that we're talking about. One of those water bonds will hopefully be on this ballot in November. Please vote for it. If we do not fix the water problem here in California, and have another year like this last year, water companies in this state run out of water. That means you turn on the spigot and nothing's out. So if we don't fix this, part of the water bond isn't just a delta, it's just whatever it's source, but it's fixing our levees. If we don't do that, then shame on us. We're looking at tens of billions of dollars in possible problems in the future.
I agree. Water is the lifeblood for our economy, and we need to solve this problem. The state senate, I voted the water line. It got delayed a couple of times, but I think it's essential that we solve the water problem. We need to make sure we have storage of water. We need to look at other ways, desalination. We need to look at all different ways that we have an opportunity to make sure that we have water. And lifeblood for our economy.
This next question sounds like it's a time. I'll give you. So the premise is if Steve Knight is elected to Congress, who would you support or endorse to fill your state Senate seat?
Best person. I don't know. That is way part before the horse. My goal is to run for Congress and win a seat. If I am successful, then this community will have to look at the people that want to run for the Senate at that time. And I will, like I said, we'll work that person.
I don't plan that to happen. I plan to the next month, the 2050 president.
You didn't know you were coming for entertainment, did you? Okay, well that ends our audience question portion of this afternoon. So let us move on to the next portion, which is where each candidate will get a chance to ask a question of the opponent. And again, earlier we tossed a coin, and Senator Knight will ask Senator Strickland a question first.
I'm going to ask this secondary question because I was already going to ask it. In your candidate statement, it clearly states, I want to go to Congress to oppose Obama and Obamacare. How can I, as a voter, expect you to go and work with an administration who will be there for 2 years for your first term? If anything the administration says, you will oppose.
Okay, 1 minute.
1 minute answer, okay. It said, oppose Obamacare. It is my president. I'm hopeful to go back there. And then one thing, so legislators don't do it very often, and I did when I was I was getting people on a bipartisan level to go get to know each other, go out and do something fun. You know, Obama's basketball. I say my basketball. I'm when I get elected to call them, there's issues lose, let's talk about some of the issues. Because if they like you personally, and you work to, and they like you on a personal level, they'll work to try to fix some of the problems. And I think that's the key for the leadership.
Okay, so next is Senator Strickland. You get to ask Senator Knight a question.
Senator, in the primary, I noticed on your Twitter account on March 31st, you were in D.C. and you met with some conservative groups back in Washington, D.C. But then I noticed on your FEC reports that you had no payments for any flights. I'm just asking, who paid for the flights to go back to Washington?
Right, I did. We met with some groups. We didn't, they were only there for 2 days, only 100 traffic in DC. I know.
I'm going to allow a 15-second rebuttal because I think you were trying to get at a different question.
No, that's the question. If you paid, Senator Knight, the Federal Elections Commission says that you need to report it as a kind donation.
Absolutely. I'll go back and I'll look at my FEC report, and if it's in error, then maybe correction. Just like on your candidate statement, you say you're going to law, and you can't say you're dividends.
That's a rebuttal. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at that point of closing remarks, and again, an earlier point toss. We will have Steve Knight, our senator, start a 2-minute closing remark presentation.
I want to thank you again for coming out today. It's very important to be engaged. Very important to know who you're voting for. And it's very important to know who's going to represent us at the federal level. I want to be that person. I think I've proven in this area in a wide variety of issues that I can believe and that I can reach out to. Now, the reason I gave you my phone number is so you can call me. The reason I don't ask for everyone who's phone number is because there's 907,000 of them. So if you do want to call me about an issue, that's why I make it very available. I would do the same thing at the federal level. I think there are opportunities here for growth, opportunities for jobs, opportunities for our state to expand in the next 10 to 15 years, opportunities for our defense to grow stronger in several different fashions. Not just making things hard, more Americans put in, but how much cyberspace is we're doing? How much defense? Are we looking at our banking system? Those types of issues. I want to talk about it as defense. And nobody over the last 6 years has been more interested in our veteran community. That's proven. I've written more bills than anyone, including the 2 governors. I will continue to do that at the federal level. We have an awful lot of issues going on with the VA. We correct some of those. People should deny on that list, waiting for treatment that they should have gotten. I want to go there to look out for our opportunities, to look out for the future, to look out for our vets, to look out for our elderly. That's what I want to be represented. And this is my district. You're not going to find somebody, you're not going to find me running for a state office because I lose my district. I certainly don't run for president. But you won't find me running outside of this district. This is where I live, this is where my friends and family are, this is where I grew up, this is where I graduated school. This is the district that I want to represent. I'm not going to shop around, I will only give you. Thank you.
Strickland.
This is the district I grew up in. I grew up in Simi Valley, and it's in the district. Don't look at the record, don't look at the rhetoric, look at the record. You want someone to come back to Washington. We already have enough people that don't work on a bipartisan level that says my way to highway. I have a record in Sacramento working across the island. When asked to be specific, I mentioned the RPS, Renewable Energy Standard. I mentioned equal pay for equal work for women. I mentioned health and finances. I have demonstrated that I don't care if it's a Republican idea, Democratic idea, I care if it's a good idea. And yes, I will give you out my cell phone number too, 805-573-4196. But I'm not going to wait for you to call me. I'm going to call you. I'm going to sit down and I'm shocked when I talk to many Democratic leaders in Antelope Valley and a cup of coffee. And when I found out 8 to 10, 12 years that you've been represented by the senator, that he has not done that. You talk to Jim D'Antona, who's a leader of the Democratic Party in Simi Valley. I have a working relationship with him. Often I call Jim D'Antona and said, let's talk about some issues, let's figure out what we can do to work together. Does this mean I agree with you 100% of the time? No. I'm proud of it. But I'm one that when I get elected to the 25th Congressional District, I'm not only going to represent the Republican